Why meditation, to answer your question? Because meditation is all about getting beyond your body, getting beyond the people and things and places in your environment, and getting beyond time. When you react to someone or something, and you turn on that fight or flight nervous system, there's an imbalance that's taking place in your brain and body because the chemicals of stress arouse us because there's danger out there, or there's some threat, or we can't control or predict something, or that we have a perception that things can get worse. That primitive system has been very adaptive, especially if you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. Fear is adaptive. You don't want to turn around and try to pet it. It's not going to work, right? The best thing to do is to have that fear response. Or if you're protecting your family, then fear turns into anger, and now it's adaptive because you have to protect the people that you care about and love. So it's been very adaptive, but the complexity of life has created, some really big problems, because now it becomes very maladaptive when it's an email or the coworker that's sitting next to you, or traffic, or the news, or whatever. So when you turn on that system and you can't turn it off, now you're headed for some type of disease because you can't live in emergency mode for all that time. So anything you do that puts you out in nature and takes you from the narrow focus of your problem to an open focus of water and waves and an infinite space, and your brain is in nature and you're no longer focusing, you're taking your attention off it. By you taking your attention off it, you're no longer putting your energy on it. And you're disinvesting your attention and breaking your association to that problem. Now, that's called emotional intelligence. And exercise, surfing, dancing, whatever people are into, crochet, tennis, whatever it is for the person to just break away from their life. It's not that you react. We all react. The question is, how long are you going to react? That's the real question. So now, when you're living in by those chemicals, and you're being chased by Tyrannosaurus Rex, there's only three things you care about. Your body, like I got to put attention on my body because I may get eaten. Where in my environment am I going to go? What's the best route to take? And your attention is on that beast because it's chasing you. And time, like you're preoccupied with time. I only got a short amount of time to do this. So 70% of the time people live in aroused states because of the hormones of stress. So they believe they're their body because that's where all their attention is. They believe that their identity is connected to people and objects and things and places because that's what makes up our environment. And of course, people are always trying to predict the future based on the past, and they're never in the present moment. So the very hormones of stress heighten our senses, cause us to become materialists, and we narrow our focus on the danger. That means then, the more the emotional reaction you have to that email, the more you'll pay attention to the person who sent it. And if you place your attention on that person, you're giving your power away to that person because that's where your attention is. So by you breaking free from your emotional reaction, you disinvested your attention, and now you broke the refractory period of that emotion. Some people will do that for days, right? And it'll turn into a mood and then a temperament. So why meditation, to answer your question? Because meditation is all about getting beyond your body, getting beyond the people and things and places in your environment, and getting beyond time. And if you can forget about your body, you become nobody. If you forget about the people in your life, you become no one. If you forget about the things you own, you're nothing. And if you're not thinking about where you need to go or where you're sitting, you're in nowhere. And if you're not thinking about time, you're in no time. And that's the moment you're no longer putting any of your attention on anything material. And now you pure consciousness, and that is the moment you start walking through the door to the quantum field. And you can't enter the quantum field as a somebody. So point number one. The purpose of meditation is to get beyond yourself. Point number two, the purpose of meditation is to get beyond that analytical mind of yours. And what separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind is the analytical mind. So 5% of your conscious mind is made up of things like logic and reasoning and will, and your subconscious mind is made up of all these habits and behaviors and unconscious emotional reactions and beliefs that pretty much we do on a daily basis until it becomes a skill or a habit. So then you can't change those subconscious states with your conscious mind. So it turns out if you can teach someone how to slow their brain waves down from that aroused beta state into alpha, and begin to slow the brainwaves down into theta, now they're in the operating system where they can begin to make those changes in the subconscious. So then we teach people how to regulate their states, and it isn't actually hard. All it requires is you to just follow some certain instructions, just like you would learn how to surf. And if you follow the instructions and you do exactly what we tell you to do, we've got thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of scans to say that just because you think you have a busy mind doesn't mean that you can't meditate. Actually, you can. Right. So then, as you practice this and you find that you're heading towards your email, or you're heading towards what you did yesterday, or you're thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow, and you become conscious and you back up and you stop and you return back to the present moment, you're carving a path neurologically between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. And if you get good at it, you change your brain waves in 4 seconds or 5 seconds or 9 seconds like everybody else. We've measured it. So if I can do it, you can do it, because I have a pretty busy analytical mind. So that's number 2. The third thing is that meditation, the exact translation of the symbol that's used in ancient texts, means to become familiar with. So if 95% of who you are is a set of unconscious thoughts, automatic habits and behaviors, and emotions that you're addicted to, then if you're sitting in a meditation and all of a sudden you're becoming conscious of your thoughts, and you're becoming familiar with them, you're becoming aware, and you start noticing your habits, and you start paying attention, observing that, oh my God, I've been living in guilt. I didn't know it was guilt because it just feels like how I always feel. The moment you start becoming familiar with those states of mind and body, you're no longer the program. You're the consciousness observing the program, and you begin to objectify your subjective self. You're pulling out. In other words, who is doing the observing of your thoughts? That's who you really are when you're conscious and you're not immersed in the program. So then, that's the old self. So now, how you think, how you act, and how you feel is called your personality. And your personality creates your personal reality. So if you want to create a new personal reality, you got to change your personality. So now you're conscious of those unconscious states, and you're so conscious of them that you'll never go unconscious during your day. And the thought that I can't, or it's too hard, or I'll start tomorrow, or you're angry or you're frustrated, you'll become aware that you're doing that, and it won't happen. So now you're in the unknown. So then you say, all right, what thoughts do I want to fire and wire in my brain? What thoughts do I want to put my attention behind? What behaviors do I want to demonstrate today? And the act of closing your eyes and rehearsing your behaviors, if you're truly in the present moment, your brain does not know the difference between what's happening in your outer world and what's happening in your inner world. The thought becomes the experience. Now, the moment that happens, you're installing the neurological hardware in your brain. And if you keep repeating it, the hardware will become a software program. And who knows? You may start acting like a happy person. Well, that's because you installed the circuits. Nothing magical there. You may start thinking in more unlimited ways. Well, why? Because you installed those circuits. And then here's the tough part. Can you teach your body emotionally what that future will feel like before it happens? That means you can't wait for your wealth to feel abundance. You can't wait for your healing to feel wholeness. You can't wait for your new relationship to feel love. That's the old model of reality, of waiting for something outside of us to take away the emptiness inside of us. But the quantum model of reality is actually doing the opposite. The moment you start feeling whole, your healing begins. The moment you're in love with yourself and in love with life, you create equals. The moment you start generating worthiness and abundance, your wealth starts to appear. Now you're causing an effect. So then if you keep doing that, firing and wiring and trading guilt for abundance or wholeness, it'll begin to become familiar to you, and it'll start getting easier and easier and easier, and that will become the new habit. Then all of a sudden you start having these synchronicities, these coincidences, these crazy things start appearing in your life out of nowhere because you're no longer the same person. Your personal reality is connected to a new personality, and when you see those feedback mechanisms, you start seeing those things happen. You start believing that you're more of a creator of your life, and now you do it with more passion and more conviction. I always say that energy is a moving freight train, and it's exactly the words I use because people have no idea. Imagine all the life force you have in your loins, or all the energy it takes to digest a meal, all the energy it takes to run from Tyrannosaurus Rex. Instead of it being consumed outward, it's moving back up into the brain. And so when it starts to move and it hits the brain, all that energy, all the guilt, all the pain, all the suffering, all the fear is turning into pure energy, and it's moving back into the brain. And so when that experience happens, experience enriches the brain. The end product of experience, B, is called an emotion. So then most people, they wake up in the morning and they start off their day thinking about their problems, and those problems are wired as memories in their brain, and those memories are connected to certain people and things at certain times and places. All of a sudden, the moment they do that, their brain is a record of the past or thinking in the past. Those memories create emotions, and those emotions then are feedback from past experiences. So the whole entire state of being of a person is in the past. And you say to the person, why are you feeling so bad? Well, I had this event that happened to me 25 years ago or 10 years ago or last week or 6 months ago. And what that means is they haven't been able to change since that event. So now you have an inner event that's more powerful than the past betrayal or trauma, the past shock. And the energy from that event is capturing all your brain's attention. But it's not coming from your outer world, it's coming from your inner world. And the moment you start feeling that elevated emotion, you're paying attention to the pictures in your mind, and you're creating a new long-term memory. And we could say that from a biological standpoint, you're rewiring your brain and sending a new emotional signature to your body, and your past is literally washed away. Now, we don't perceive things the way they are. We perceive things the way we are. So the moment your brain gets upscale neurologically and you start feeling differently, your spectrum of reality is going to change, because you're no longer viewing your future through the lens of the past. And the side effect of that is psychological healing. It's emotional healing. It's people get their hearing back, people get their eyesight back, people get their cancer to go away, I could go, all their skin conditions disappear. I could go down the list in 1 second. In 1 second, they get a biological upgrade.